Hello, my name's Chloe and I'm recording from the southeast of England in the UK, and this is the introduction to my new crafting podcast. I thought I'd start with a bit about me, about the crafts I do, about the crafts I'd like to do, about some things I've made and some things I'd like to make in the future, and hopefully from that you'll know whether this is a podcast you want to watch along to. So, about me. I live in Surrey with my partner and my two lovely dogs. They will probably feature at some point and are very cute. Regarding crafts, I have been knitting for about 12 years, crocheting for about 10 years. I think I got my sewing machine about 22 years ago, which feels very bizarre to say. I've also started weaving in the last 2 years. I used to do leather crafting and leather engraving. Probably about 22 years ago was also when I started doing that. But I don't do it so much anymore. I do still have all the gear and a big pile of leather to work on. But yeah, it's a lot to get out every time, so I haven't done that in some time. Also, I dabble in lots of various other crafts. So I do tend to darn and repair clothes, and that's led me on to do some of the sashiko visible mending, and the visible mending obviously lends itself to embroidery. I've also done some cross stitch, limited cross stitch. It's not really my thing, but sometimes again it's nice to have that thing that you can kind of pick up and work on when you fancy something different. I did do a lot of macrame at college, you know, the kind of friendship bracelet type things, but I haven't done so much of that lately. I also quite like working with wood, so whether that's whittling or just woodworking in general, and I'd love to have a go at wood turning, but I don't have space for a lathe, and I think if I had a go I'd be in trouble because it looks like it would be very addictive. There's only so many wooden bowls you can have, right? So, right. Yeah, but I'd like to be working through quite a lot of my stash as well, so I'd like to do a lot more knitting projects, a lot more weaving and sewing with those woven materials as well. Crochet I sort of pick up and put down. I find that crochet is most likely to make my wrists sore after a while, so I tend to knit more, but I do like both. And I think the different knitting and crochet stitches lend themselves to different items as well, so it depends what I want to make, really. What else? The other thing is I'd quite like to at some point probably have a go at spinning, but I've been avoiding it for a while because I don't want to add to my current stash with more fibre, so I want to work through a lot more of that before I start taking up any new and exciting crafts. I have done a little bit of dyeing in the past. I did a natural dyeing workshop, which was super fun. I'd love to do more natural dyeing, and I have been saving up an obscene amount of avocado pits for having a go at dyeing with, so I might do that in the near future. Otherwise I'm going to have no room left in the house because it will just be overrun with avocado pits. So anyway, I have a knitting machine in the house, which also requires some TLC, needs a bit of maintenance, and if I can get that up and running, then I'll probably do a little bit with that as well. I am kind of interested in exploring machine knitting, and it seems like a really cool opportunity to try different types of knitting, or you know, working out what it could be used best for. So it's not the sort of thing where I'm going to be creating, you know, chunky hats out of that. It's going to be better for fine colour work and things like that. So yeah, I want to explore that a lot this year if I can get it working. So that's some of the stuff that I do or would like to do. I think it would be a good point here as well to mention some other things that might influence my crafting preferences. So one thing to note is items for myself, I tend to be more interested in more of an autumnal colour palette generally, but I make a lot of things for other people, so I don't think really that my colour choices would be that limited. But the other thing is that I tend not to make, I really like the look of amigurumi and, you know, certain toys and knitted items like that, but I don't tend to knit objects. I'm normally knitting garments or accessories, not things to display. I like to think of myself as eco-conscious, but I am balancing that fine line between reduce, reuse and recycle and just becoming a semi-professional hoarder. So what doesn't add to that is having lots of little items on shelves and windowsills and things. So I try to store things and reuse them. That includes things like, you know, plastic packaging and things. If I get them, I see if I can reuse them for storage. But then I have this danger zone where sometimes, you know, when you have the bag of bags, so I have a bag of reusable bags, and then, you know, I'll have Christmas wrapping paper that are in still quite big pieces, so I'll save them for next year, and suddenly now I've got a stack of Christmas wrapping paper as well. So I do fall into those traps where suddenly, yeah, okay, I'm putting these things to good use eventually, but in the meantime I do have a lot of tat hanging around. So but I think also that eco-conscious effort does leak into some of my crafts. Like an example would be, I recently bought a second-hand cashmere jumper for a friend, which I'm going to embroider onto because it was heavily reduced, because A, it was second-hand, but also because it has a little moth hole in it, slightly moth-eaten bit. And so I will be using visible mending to sort of mend that and then also embroider onto it something nice. Luckily the friend in question is also eco-conscious and quite keen on the idea. I'm not just, you know, rummaging around in dustbins looking for gifts. So there's that as well. That said, I might also be able to give you some good tips on reusing stuff and how to get rid of your scraps in a kind of eco-conscious way and what to do with them. Yeah, maybe, we'll see. Also, I think I will probably do a monthly podcast just because I'm quite a slow knitter. Even when I'm really in the zone, it does take me a lot longer. And I'm also a perfectionist, so if I do find something wrong with the knit, rather than just bodge it and carry on, I will rip back. So yeah, all things that will probably affect what I'm showing you really, or things that I'm sharing. So worth noting. Right, now I was going to show a couple of things that I've made previously, because that will also show you the kind of things that I do make. So I was thinking what I'll do here is I will put the pictures of the items over me speaking about them, because I haven't got all of them to hand. But in the future, I think when I am talking about a given item, hopefully I'll have it actually on screen to show you in person. But as I don't have those right now, I will, yeah, just show a picture. So starting probably with the LotusFlowerBeanie, which is by BKnits Handmade and can be found on Ravelry. I will also try and put the links to things in the description, anything that I've mentioned, in case you want to look it up later. I've actually oddly knitted 10 of these hats this year, which again, it's actually not like me to remake the same thing, because I find it a little bit boring. So I tend to just make one of something and then move on, which is actually a shame, because sometimes I make something for a friend and then I think, oh, I'd really like one of those, and then I don't make it. So yeah, that's quite a typical thing to happen. So yeah, LotusFlowerBeanie, I've made 10 of these this year. I made one for my niece, and then and it was too small actually, I had to rip it back. But I took a picture of it anyway because I thought it looked quite good as a test piece. And then I got a few requests for more of them. So I found that Nachagon wool was on sale. So I kind of bought enough to make probably about 5 hats while that sale was on. And then it's just escalated. Every time I seem to make a hat, I'll make a hat, gift it to somebody, and then somebody else wants one of the hats. But I've really enjoyed making them, actually. I got the extra yarn because it was such an enjoyable knit, and it's really quick as well for how, lovely it looks. The pom-poms I've used are Trimmets faux fur pom-poms, which I think on this particular hat look very good, especially with the different colours that this yarn offers. So yeah, LotusFlowerBeanie, that's BKnits Handmade. The other thing I made this year that I was quite pleased with was the Rêveur shawl by Cheryl Faust, and I made that almost in the same colours as the original pattern for my partner's grandma, who turned 90 this year. Pretty cool. That is an unusual thing because I very rarely make something in the same colour as the pattern. I find it quite exciting to see how different colours will work with a given pattern, so I almost feel like if you make a pattern in the same colours, it's, you may as well buy that because there's already one like it. But that's not a strict rule. I quite like to play with colour generally in something I'm making. But in this case, I did think the original colours would suit her best, so that's what I did. I've also made the rabbit and bear, both of them at different times, by April Cromwell. Those are really lovely knits. They are a good baby gift, and in both cases I made rabbit and bear for some of my colleagues, well, ex-colleagues actually, I don't work there anymore, but my ex-colleagues in India, so I sent them out the rabbit and the bear when they had their first ones, which was really lovely. I have recently knit the Christmas jumper by Fiona Bennett. Not that recently, actually, sorry, it was about a year ago. And it was a good knit, but I tend to like a long sleeve. So I knit it so that I had kind of, sleeves up to here. And when I joined the yoke, it pulled the sleeves up so much that actually they now end here. So at some point I'm going to take my Christmas jumper and I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to knit back down again, because it's knit bottom up. You knit the body and then you knit each of the sleeves and then you join it all in the round and do the yoke. So yeah, I'm going to cut them and then knit them back down again, which might be a good thing to video as well in case you ever have the same kind of problem and want to do the same. Then I've also done a couple of Chevron baby blankets, but this one I'm going to show you is a neon coloured one for a lovely woman I used to work with, and these were very much her colours. She would really wear these vibrant colours, and she just looked great in them all the time. When she had a baby, I felt like those had to be the colours I made the baby blanket in. I went quite turbo with the sizing, so it is probably big enough to cover a double bed, which isn't really a baby blanket, but I decided that was fine because hopefully that blanket will be useful for many, many years to come because it's so big. Whether it made a good baby blanket, I can't say. So the Chevron baby blanket is by, is it Espace, Tricot? I don't actually know how to say any of these names, how embarrassing. The other thing that I've made a couple of actually is the baby jewel dress by Eroglu, and I think this pattern is stunning, and honestly anytime somebody has a baby girl I am chomping at the bit to make this dress. I love it so much, and I love the different colours that you can, I love the different colour combinations you can use with it. It looks great in a block colour anyway, but I really like doing the kind of top in a block colour and then a variegated skirt. So as you see, I've done a few of those. I've got another one actually to be made with some really nice yarn that I'm looking forward to working with. So yeah, looking forward to making that. Also made a French macaroon jumper by the Noble Thread. These are also a lovely baby knit, so I've only made one of these actually, but I would definitely make it again. Really lovely pattern, and the jumper itself is really lovely too, and gives you again the opportunity to do something kind of simple with colours but that looks quite effective. Also, I have made socks, but I don't love making socks. I love having the finished knitted sock, but so far I haven't really enjoyed knitting socks. I really enjoyed knitting with the simple sock. Well, it's the simple sock and gift pouch pattern by Sue Morgan, but the sock itself is a heel flap and gusset, and it comes out really lovely. But I love the look of the German short row heel, so I kind of want to get into socks enough that I'm making them a little bit more second nature. I have a very tight tension, and when I am unfamiliar with something or finding a piece of work a little bit unwieldy, I tend to get tighter and make it harder for myself. So there's that problem. So yeah, I'd like to make more socks in the future though. I have made quite a lot of slipper socks, but not so many with 4-ply. And yes, I have a lot of 4-ply sock yarn that I do need to use. So yeah. So yeah, that probably covers knitting and crochet. Oh no, I should definitely show you my BB-8 because it's probably the best thing I've ever made. My partner loved Star Wars as a kid. We watched the new films, and BB-8 obviously is star of the show. So I decided I would make him just a desktop amigurumi BB-8, which actually really was an exception because he also doesn't like little miniatures and things. So I used the pattern for a BB-8 Christmas ornament, which I can't actually remember who made that pattern, so I will link it and mention it here. But there are two things. One is that I do actually wish that the very top of the pattern had more grey, because I've had to kind of embroider more grey onto it to make it look more like BB-8 does in the film. I realised I was gassing away just now about the BB-8 and how I made it and things, and it's actually in the next room, so I just decided I'd go and get it. So this is the BB-8, and I used a pattern for a BB-8 Christmas bauble on Ravelry, which I will link in the description below so that you can look it up if you want one. I think what I would just say about that pattern is it was really good, but BB-8 in the film, I kind of looked up a picture to try and do these details afterwards and kind of embroider them on. And I realised that actually on his head at the top here, he has these silver panels, and on the pattern it's just one small ring, but I think retrospectively it should have been 2 or maybe 3 rows of the grey. So what I did was I just embroidered it to kind of make it look a bit thicker. But if I was making it again from scratch, I would do more rows, so bear that in mind. But what I actually did was, in every kind of white space here, I put a magnet, and then I put one in his head, so it comes off and he can just kind of roll along. Whoops. He can, I'll try that again, just roll along, which I was quite pleased with. So he sits on my partner's desk, and I also made this little crochet disc so that when he's sat on the desk, he's got a little stand and he doesn't roll away. So yeah, he's pretty cool, and his head comes off. So I was quite pleased with that. Right, anyway, going back to what I had previously recorded. I'm pretty chuffed with it. Yeah, as I say, it's possibly the best thing I've ever made. So anyway, that's knitting and crochet. So I'll just also show a couple of things that I've sewn. I've sewn recently a few bags, which I'll just put on the screen. They are, I think, all but one made from pattern. I think I'll show a couple that I've made from pattern and a couple that I've made the pattern for myself. I've also made a test patchwork blanket for the dogs out of just old denim jeans with holes in. I just cut squares out of all the legs of the jeans that were going to go otherwise in the fabric recycling, and then stitched them together as a patchwork blanket. Funnily enough, I first made it when I just had the one dog, and she would never sleep on it. She'll sleep on anything except the patchwork blanket that I lovingly made. But we have a second dog now who we adopted this year, and she is not so fussy and she quite likes the patchwork blanket. But since she has joined us, now the other one will sleep on the blanket, so can't win. The other patchwork blanket I made, which the original denim one was a test for, it's big enough to go on a single bed, and it was a gift to my lovely friends when they had a baby. So that is hopefully here on the screen now. And in both cases I worked from Melanie Ham's videos on YouTube to make those sort of theoretically basic patchwork blankets. Though to tell the truth, I find the basic square patchwork blankets to be the most beautiful, so even if I was getting adventurous with my quilting, I think I'd probably still stick to good old trusty square patchwork blankets because I just think they look lovely. Yeah, so those are some things I've sewn recently. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. So anyway, there's some things I have made. You can find some more over on my Ravelry channel. I will just put links to my Ravelry and Instagram just at the end of the video in text for anyone who wants that. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to actually straight after this record a video on my works in progress and anything I've abandoned, and I'm going to go through those because that hopefully will give you an idea of the kind of imminent things that will be sort of discussed. But I'll make that separate video because this one's probably long enough for an introduction, hopefully. So yeah, if you have enjoyed this podcast, consider following along and watching the next one on my embarrassing pile of works in progress. And hopefully see you there. Alright, happy crafting. Bye.